Welcome back to Pokemon Episode Summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 352, Me, Myself, and Time. The episode begins with Ash and the gang making their way to the gym in Fortree City, when suddenly they came across Kirikiri Mountain, and specifically a forest on the mountain that was entirely filled with thick fog. Brock apparently saw that the pathway through this fog was a shortcut to Fortree City in the guidebook, although they were immediately regretting taking this shortcut as they had gotten lost in the fog, leaving Max to complain that they should have just gone around the mountain, and it likely would have led them to the same spot, as they were still going straight forward, just around the mountain as opposed to on it. Brock wanted Ash to defend him, but he didn't hear Ash pipe up for him, so he told Ash to hurry up, assuming that Ash must have been falling behind, and he warned him not to get lost in the fog. Although, what Ash and the gang didn't realize was that Ash had already gotten separated from all of them. Meanwhile, Jesse and James were also lost in the fog in the mountain with Meowth, since they had been trying to spy on Ash and the gang, and of course, that led them to get lost as well. Meowth proceeded to complain about Ash and the gang getting them lost, although Jesse shushes Meowth, telling him to just be fucking quiet, since she was trying to concentrate and find out which way to go. Meowth obliges for a little bit, but soon, when Jesse couldn't figure out a way to go right away, Meowth called out in desperation, specifically calling out for Ash and the gang, reasoning that they always need to be experts at finding their way out of areas where they were lost. Although Jesse didn't approve of this, as she didn't like the thought of Team Rocket relying on Ash and the gang for anything, so she told him to shut up for a second time today, and eventually managed to choose a way in the fog, saying that it was her woman intuition, claiming that it was a psychic thing, as if she was a psychic, amazing Meowth and James, as they somehow fell for this lie. Likely because they were so bored, they were just willing to fall for anything interesting. Meanwhile, we then see Ash, along with Pikachu, somewhere else lost on the foggy mountain, and suddenly the fog got so thick that he couldn't see where he was even walking, and tripped over a steep ledge, and this caused him to start sliding down the mountain. And once he landed, having gone down a narrow path all the way to the bottom of the mountain, Ash and Pikachu immediately heard singing, and they began to walk towards the source of the singing, when, even through the fog, they were able to make out the source, which was a woman in a burgundy robe with glasses, chanting a song, who was inside a tree hollow. Ash thought the song was quite beautiful, and his attention was drawn to the lyrics of the song, and as he listened, he could make out lyrics about a treasure hidden in ruins that only something called a Baltoy was capable of opening. Ash goes to ask his friends what they thought a fucking Baltoy meant, when suddenly he finally realized, not having realized this before due to how foggy it was, the fact that he and Pikachu were alone. So he began to run off back in the direction he came, looking for the rest of the gang. What Ash was unaware of, though, was that the woman in a burgundy cloak had stopped singing her song, or chanting, whatever the fuck she was doing, as soon as she saw Ash, and she watched him very carefully, knowing that she got his attention. But as soon as she realized that Ash was gone, she immediately started singing again, and disappeared into the tree hollow, so that hopefully no one else would see her. Meanwhile, May, Max, and Brock had made it to another area on the mountain, in the forest area, out of the fog. They all exclaimed how much of a relief it was to get out of the fog, although May realized that Ash didn't say anything, so she turned around, stating that he should be getting excited now, since they were getting closer to Fortree City, but it was then that May realized that Ash was missing, and must have gotten separated in the fog, so Ash's friends started to call out for him, hoping to find him. Meanwhile, Ash was still searching in the fog for May, Max, and Brock, as May, Max, and Brock were now looking into the fog to see if they could see Ash, but they couldn't. Ash, unfortunately, didn't hear the calls of his friends, so he just aimlessly kept looking for them through the fog. To make things worse, Ash still could barely see where he was going, so he just noticed the ledge, just before he was about to fall off of it, and off of an entire part of the mountain, into a deep gorge, although Ash was grateful for managing to be able to catch himself. Anyways, Ash continued the search for May, Max, and Brock, and started to wonder where the fuck they even were, and where he could look next, when he started to hear an old-sounding voice, and then saw a top-like Pokemon just barely appearing through the fog. Ash scanned it with his dex to find out more information on it, and found out that it was apparently called a Baltoy, which was somehow related to ruins, but even though Ash had encountered the cloaked woman talking about a Baltoy and some ruins earlier, Ash couldn't put two and two together and compare this to the entry in the Pokedex, realizing that this Baltoy and the Baltoy she was talking about were probably one and the same. Ash became too distracted, seeing that the Baltoy was going super insane, spinning, and it was about to fall off the cliff while doing so. Ash, the Pokemon lover that he was, wanted to save Baltoy before it went off the cliff, and he figured the perfect way to do this would be to hit it with a Thunderbolt from Pikachu, since that could snap it out of its spinning frenzy. However, Baltoy was completely unfazed by the attack, just ignoring it and continuing to spin. So Ash then checked the Pokedex again to learn more information about it, potentially learning how to stop it, and he didn't find this out, but he did find out that Baltoy was a ground and psychic type. And Ash knew that since it was a ground type, it wouldn't be affected by electric attacks. However, Baltoy was now nearing the edge of the cliff on the mountain, so Ash knew he had to do something immediately, thinking fast, as he had Pikachu use Quick Attack, since it wasn't an electric move, so it should take effect, and sure enough, this Quick Attack stopped the Baltoy from spinning, but it hit it a little too hard, causing it to faint as well. And it was just after this that Ash heard a young girl's voice calling for Baltoy, and seconds later, she arrived and noticed her fainted Pokemon, and scolded Ash, blaming him for what had happened to Baltoy. Asking why the fuck he and Pikachu attacked Baltoy to begin with, leaving Ash to explain the situation, stating that it would have gone off the cliff, so he had to save it somehow, and attacking was the only way he could think of. And upon hearing this, the girl apologized to Ash and thanked him for his help instead. and she picked up her knocked out Baltoy to comfort it and introduced herself as Callista, adding that her and her Baltoy had been in the area for quite a while. Ash then introduced himself as well. We then see Team Rocket, who ended up reaching the same steep hill that Ash initially did when he fell down to the bottom of the mountain, and they lost their balance and slid down to the very bottom. Meowth proceeds to scold Jessie at the fact that she said that she had intuition that could lead them out of the fog, when that was obviously just a lie. And both he and James told Jessie to keep her psychic intuition to herself from now on. Jessie simply ignored what Meowth and James had just said, and looked around the forest and managed to see something, despite the fog, that, according to her, looked like it had been struck by electricity, and Jessie came to the conclusion that it had to have been Pikachu who used electricity on the thing. And therefore leading Team Rocket, even James and Meowth, who were eager to steal, to go find the source of this thing that had been struck by Thunderbolt, although unbeknownst to Team Rocket currently, this thing was Baltoy. Jessie had essentially watched the battle between Pikachu and Baltoy, and she just didn't even realize it. Ash and Callista then go to sit on some rocks in the forest so that they could have some more formal introductions and talk some more, since they were both bored, with Ash especially bored since he couldn't find his friends. Pikachu and Baltoy were bored as fuck as well, so they started to play with each other since Baltoy had recovered and was relatively healed, although Baltoy got a bit annoyed as Pikachu was playing it much like it would play with the ketchup bottle back in Kanto and Johto. Anyways, as the conversation between Ash and Callista continued, Ash asked Callista why she was in the middle of a forest on a mountain by herself, leading Callista to explain that her dream was to become an archaeologist and make an important discovery, and she felt like she had the perfect chance being with her Baltoy in this forest on this mountain. Ash didn't understand what Callista meant by this, leading Callista to explain that the mountain happened to have some ancient relics, and she figured that her and her Baltoy could find these relics that she had been looking for quite a while. Callista then pulls out a book with a Baltoy and some runes on it that was supposedly about all the relics in the known universe. Yeah, I'm sure it was. Anyways, she explained that she wanted to be an archaeologist when she grew up, despite her parents' wishes, and saw her chance when she read in this book that there were supposed to be ruins somewhere in a foggy mountain in Hoenn that only Baltoy was capable of opening, and there was apparently precious valuables inside of these ruins, and yeah, because of that, she believed that this mountain was the place that she was looking for. Ash was curious as to where Callista had got the book, since he really doubted that it had all the artifacts in the universe, and Callista revealed that she actually got it from her parents as a birthday present, despite them not wanting her to be an archaeologist, because at first they thought it was merely just going to be a side hobby, and she could still become a doctor. But when she started actually collecting artifacts from certain places, having built up a pretty decent collection, and about to go to the mountain to search for these new ruins with Baltoy, her parents barged in her room and stole every single artifact that she had got at that point, since they saw that her archaeologist hobby was turning into more than a hobby and interfering with the fact that they wanted her to be a doctor. Adding that she just barely managed to hide the book without her parents noticing. Suddenly, though, the phone rang after her parents had left her room, so when her parents had left the house, by that point also, because, they were busy doctors themselves, she went to go answer the phone, and a strange woman picked up on the other end and told her that she knew about the legend as well, and had a Baltoy, and that someone knew that the ruins in the foggy mountains that the book mentioned were close by. Callista was already freaked out about this random-ass person phoning them about the book that she had, and she was even more creeped out when the woman on the other end of the phone told her to come to the foggy mountain immediately because she needed her help, and apparently only her and her Baltoy could help her. Even though she was frightened by the voice a little bit, she still decided to come and find the ruins and whoever this woman was, because she was longing for adventure instead of being cooped up, being forced to study to be a doctor. We see a flashback of all these previous events that had been mentioned, and by the time Callista's story was over, Ash was now very interested because he was also into adventure and wanted to know if there was any more info on where the ruins could be located in specific, or just anything about the ruins in general, and Callista revealed that her book also had a song in it that held the key to finding the ruins, apparently. And she starts singing the song, and as she began singing, Ash recognizes the song as the same one that the cloaked woman was singing earlier in the tree hollow, and since Ash knew the last few lines, he joined in and sang the last few lines with Callista, much to her surprise. And wondering how the fuck Ash knew the song, so Ash explained about how he saw a cloaked woman in a tree hollow that was singing it, and described her voice. Upon hearing the voice, Callista was almost positive that the voice was the one that she heard on the phone. She recognized it, so she declared that the woman that was singing the song must have been the one that had called her to the mountain in the first place. Ash agreed with his assumption, and tried to remember where exactly he saw her in the tree hollow, and once he remembered, he started guiding Callista there so they could find this woman, eagerly standing up and declaring that he would be joining Callista on her journey to the ruins, and Callista didn't object. She just wanted to get to the woman as fast as possible, because she knew that the woman and the song combined could definitely help her find the ruins. As Ash and Callista left, unbeknownst to them, Team Rocket had been hiding behind some more rocks nearby, and had been eavesdropping on the conversation. So, upon hearing about treasure at the ruins, they promised to get the treasure from them and give it to Giovanni before Ash and Callista could find it. and cheered, along with Wobbuffet, who forcibly popped out his Pokeball, because they knew that they could just find the woman first, since Ash had described her location by the tree hollow. So, sure enough, after searching for a little bit, they were, luckily for them, able to find the woman cloaked in burgundy pretty quickly and easily. And the three of them appeared in front of her, first appearing as shadows in the fog, interrupting her singing, which makes the woman mad, claiming that her song wasn't being sung for them. Although Team Rocket say that they didn't give a fuck about her song, they instead wanted the treasure at the ruins, and its precise location, launching into their motto to describe what they wanted to do with the treasure, which was just give it to their boss and get promotions as a result. Upon hearing the motto, the woman actually seemed to recognize Team Rocket. And at first, she wasn't sure just by hearing the beginning of their motto, but once they started mentioning their plans with what they wanted with the ruins and the treasure there, she knew that she had recognized Team Rocket, and also knew that they shouldn't be trusted, and therefore she refused to say anything about the ruins location, which surprised Team Rocket, since they had never met this woman before, so they didn't understand why she recognized them and wasn't telling them anything. Jessie assumed that maybe the woman had just mistook them for someone else, so she started doing her motto again to clear up any confusion, but Meowth stopped her, suggesting that she just demand to know the treasure location anyways, and Jessie does this, but the woman still refuses to say anything at all. So Team Rocket goes for a more desperate tactic, sending out their Viper and Cacnea to attack the woman and force her to reveal the location, although Cacnea hugged James first. But right as Cacnea launched the first attack, being a pin missile, the woman sent out a Xatu and had it use Reflect to make the pin missiles bounce off, protecting it. While the battle was going on, Ash and Callista happened to pass by and noticed the battle, and with Ash particularly noticing Team Rocket because he recognized them, but Callista was more interested in the cloaked woman, knowing that was who she was looking for, and Ash confirmed this, which actually made Callista 100% sure. Anyways, the battle continues with the cloaked woman having her Xatu teleport behind Team Rocket and then peck Cacnea from behind. Unfortunately, when Ash saw Cacnea being pecked, he started to make fun of Cacnea a little too loudly, because, he was one of Team Rocket's Pokemon, but this alerted Team Rocket and the woman to the fact that Ash and Callista were watching them. And thus, the battle between Team Rocket and the woman was interrupted as Team Rocket turned their attention towards Ash and Callista, with James having Cacnea use Pin Missile to try and knock them down, but Callista and her Baltoy interfered by deflecting the Pin Missile with a Rapid Spin right back at Team Rocket. Jessie quickly recovers and orders Viper to attack Baltoy with a Bite and a Wrap, but Pikachu jumped in first and used Thunderbolt to knock out Viper. And then the cloaked woman takes action and blasts Team Rocket off by having her Xatu use a Shadow Ball. Ash and Callista then turn their attention to the woman with Team Rocket gone and ask why the song was an important clue to finding the treasure. To make sure that Callista was the girl that she had called, the woman played dumb at first and pretended to have no idea what she was talking about, leaving Callista to introduce herself and reveal that the song was a clue to the ancient treasure in the ruins on the mountain. So that's why Callista wanted to know why the song was being sang, so that she could decipher whatever this clue would be. Callista then stated her belief that she figured the clue in the song was the line about Baltoy's path, and begged the woman to take her and her Baltoy down the Baltoy path, assuring her that her and her Baltoy were who she had called on the phone. And upon hearing all this, the woman now believed that Callista and her Baltoy were who she was looking for, so she agreed to take them down into the tree hollow, where apparently the ruins would be located. As the three of them walked over to the tree hollow, Xatu followed as well, and so did Baltoy, obviously, and the woman started to sing the song again, and eventually they were inside the tree hollow, and as she continued to sing the song, they eventually ended up in a cave-like structure inside the tree hollow, and the ground below them dropped, and they all fell down a long chute, screaming all the way down. They eventually got to the end of the chute and landed on a small haystack in some underground chamber of some kind. Thank God they all fell in soft hay, because otherwise, due to how fast they fell, they would have fucking died from the fall. Especially Ash and Callista, since they were caught so off guard by the floor opening up that they almost had a heart attack on the way down. As they all looked around the chamber, Callista noticed the ancient glyphs on the wall, realizing that this place must have been the ruins. Baltoy seemed to recognize the drawings of an ancient glyphs as well on the wall, so Callista, Ash, and Baltoy eagerly ran up and inspected the drawings, with Callista able to identify the drawings as Baltoy when the humans lived in Baltoy civilization. Back when Baltoy were more common, and also more ingrained in society with humans than most other Pokemon at the time, in some areas. Baltoy was so excited to see these drawings on the wall that it practically was jumping up and down in excitement. While Callista continued to inspect the drawings, Ash wasn't nearly as interested, reminding Callista that they came to the ruins for the treasure. So Callista asked the woman what was supposed to be done with her Baltoy to find the treasure, and asked if she had any somewhat pinpointed location in some way as to where precisely the treasure could be within the ruins. The woman responded by pointing to the other side of the ruins, where there was a huge pedestal made entirely of rock that looked exactly like the one on the cover of Callista's book, as well as one of the drawings on the wall, except the only part that looked like the cover of her book was the bottom part of the rock, where there were all those symbols that were also on the wall. But there was a whole bunch of excess rock on top of this, and Callista questioned where this was, leading the woman to reveal that the rocks hadn't always been on top of the main part they needed, explaining that she and her own Baltoy were exploring it, but then an earthquake occurred and unfortunately knocked all those rocks down from the wall of the ruins, and while Baltoy was on the part that they needed with all the symbols, these rocks fell down on it, and therefore not only covered up the part with the symbols, but trapped her Baltoy as well. The woman then revealed that she had tried to lift the rocks with the help of her Xatu, but they weren't capable of doing so, since the rocks were too heavy. However, Ash then stepped up to the plate, believing that they couldn't be too heavy for him, but unfortunately, even he couldn't lift any of the rocks, because he was pretty weak. However, the woman then revealed her reasoning for calling Callista to the ruins in the first place. It wasn't just to find the treasure, but also to save her Baltoy that was trapped underneath, and suggested that maybe, since Baltoy was linked to these ruins, Baltoy would be capable of lifting the rocks from the ruin wall up, and in an anonymous tone, simply just tells Callista to use her Baltoy, assuring her that it would work. So, Callista obliges, telling her Baltoy to use confusion, as the woman tells her Xatu to use a reflect to set up a barrier in case the rocks came falling down. And sure enough, they did, as Callista had her Baltoy use confusion, and it was able to lift all the rocks off of the mural with the drawings, and the confusion then ended up destroying the rocks, making them explode, causing a huge dust cloud. Although, thankfully, the reflect protected everyone from the shards of the rocks. Once the rock shards had stopped flying, Xatu stopped the reflect, and they all went up to the mural to take a closer look at it, and sure enough, they saw the woman's fainted Baltoy there. So, the woman hurriedly ran up, worried about her Baltoy's condition, as she pulled out Baltoy's Pokeball and recalled it, telling it to rest for a while to regain its strength. Recalling it as quickly as possible, and thanking Callista for her help. Ash then questioned the woman on how she knew about the mural being linked to the treasure, and doubted that this was actually true, although Callista then pulled out her book and pointed out that the mural looked exactly like the one on the cover of her book again, and wondered herself if it actually was the one. Callista then goes to the page about the ruins themselves for more information, and finds out that apparently no one had actually found the ancient treasure in the ruins before. It was just a rumor. So this made Callista also question how the fuck the woman knew about the mural to begin with, leading the woman to pull out a copy of Callista's book as well. She had one too, so that was how she was able to identify the mural as potentially being involved with the treasure. Much to Ash and Callista's surprise, although this woman's book looked a bit older and more worn out. Also adding that the book had helped her come to the conclusion that basically any artifact that it mentioned had to exist, since she had found several ones and added them to her collection from other places where the book said artifacts were. Basically, the book said the location of several other artifacts that were true, so she believed that this ruin had to be true as well. The woman also explains that she had studied the mural in person for a long time, and she knew that it was the right one. But the only reason why she hadn't done any further investigating to actually find the treasure was because while her and her Baltoy were looking for it, that's when her Baltoy got stuck under, and she proceeded to thank Callista and her Baltoy again for their assistance, adamant that her Baltoy could have died if it wasn't for Callista and her Baltoy's involvement. The woman then goes on a little rant about how it seemed like the world was kind of against her when it came to studying anything archaeological, as she had barely managed to study the Baltoy civilization and any of the treasures in these ruins because Baltoy had, gotten trapped, and also her parents didn't allow her to study archaeology, so she had to do this behind her back. Callista revealed that her parents didn't want her to become an archaeologist either, and the two of them talked about how you only live once and only have one chance to pursue your dreams, so they were basically both in agreement that they should disobey with what their parents wanted and pursue their own dreams. Although Callista did like the woman, she got a bit suspicious of her, remembering the fact that Callista was contacted by her out of nowhere, when the woman shouldn't even have known her phone number. And also, she shouldn't even have known that Callista had a Baltoy. And it's not like she could just call a random house and hope that the person there had a Baltoy, because not many people had a Baltoy. Being a bit suspicious of the woman, Callista asked to see the woman's book, and the woman handed it over, and upon looking through it, Callista took note of the fact that her book seemed a lot newer than the woman's, even though the book just came out not too long ago, when she first got it for her birthday. That was a few months ago, although this book definitely looked like it had seen use over more than a few months. And as Callista looked through it, she got even more surprised as she saw all of the places that this woman has visited that she hadn't yet. And Callista became jealous of this, questioning the woman as to how she could have such an older book and how she was able to visit so many places. But the woman just rebuttals that she somehow got her book earlier than the general population and had used it in her research so much that it ended up getting a bit worn out. And as for how she was able to visit so many places, well, the woman just told Callista not to worry about it. And Callista obliged, ceasing her questioning because she didn't want to upset her new friend that she had a lot in common with, and admitted that she was still glad that she helped the woman free her Baltoy, despite her jealousy of her. Without further ado, it was now time to find the treasure in the ruins using Callista's Baltoy, because even though the woman's Baltoy was free, it would still had to rest in its Pokeball. So the woman instructed Callista, according to the pictures on the wall and in the book, that what needed to be done now was for Callista's Baltoy to stand on the mural and use Rapid Spin. So Callista proceeded to do this on the center of the mural, having her Baltoy use Rapid Spin, hoping that it would unveil the treasure. But right as Callista began doing this, the ground started to rumble, and the next thing that Ash, Callista, and the woman knew, Team Rocket showed up, breaking through the wall in their new drilling machine. Team Rocket then came out of the machine for a little while and did their motto, bragging about how their drilling machine was made from pure steel, and nothing could defeat steel. And they quickly went back inside their mech, and they released one of the arms from the drilling machine and used it to grab Baltoy, specifically Callista's. Once this was done, Meowth pressed a button inside of the machine to turn on the driller's driller and raced towards Ash, Callista, and the woman, showing no regard for them, as they just wanted to get to the mural and destroy it, hoping that the treasure would be underneath. The woman warned Team Rocket, however, that if they destroyed the mural to get the treasure, then they could destroy the treasure in the process, and also, if they destroyed the mural, then it may not even open up, explaining that Baltoy would be needed to get the treasure anyways. It would have to link its powers to the mural. Team Rocket couldn't just dig it up out of nowhere. So basically, the woman was just like, look, if you destroy the mural, then you guys are fucked. You can't get the treasure. But Team Rocket just ignored her and went to go dig up the treasure anyways by destroying the mural. Although the woman came up with a plan, as she had her Xatu teleport on top of the driller and begin to peck it. At first, Meowth just laughed because the peck wasn't doing jack shit, but the more pecks that happened, the more damage it actually ended up doing. So Meowth took action by using one of the driller's arms to knock Xatu off of it. Ash then took action because he remembered how the driller was made out of steel, and he figured that Pikachu's Thunderbolt would do great damage to the mech in that case, and sure enough, it did, doing severe damage to Team Rocket's machine, destroying one of the hands as well, setting Baltoy free. Team Rocket was immensely shocked as Jesse realized that Meowth had forgotten to make the mech electric-proof like they usually did, and scolded him for this. With Team Rocket distracted, Callista had her Baltoy use Rapid Spin, though on Team Rocket's mech, to utterly fuck it up and wreck it. Baltoy then joined Callista again, as Xatu took action and used a Shadow Ball to send the panicking Team Rocket blasting off back through the hole in the wall that they had made. With Team Rocket gone, Ash, Callista, and the woman proceeded to watch as Baltoy got back on the mural and started to use Rapid Spin again, trying to unveil the treasure. Eventually, the mural started to glow, and a huge ray of yellow light was formed, and suddenly, Ash and Callista watched as the woman stepped into the light and took off her cloak and hood, revealing herself to be Callista's clone. At least, that's what Callista and Ash thought when they saw the woman fully revealed, as she looked like Callista, except just a whole lot older. The woman confidently clarified, though, that she was not Callista's clone, but rather Callista from the future. Callista then revealed that the precious treasure that was inside these ruins was actually time, as the mural had created a time machine, which was activated by Baltoy, based on the direction of its spin, determining whether the time travel was to the future or to the past. So, basically, Baltoy had developed the opportunity to activate time travel if they were placed within special ruins that were left over from back when they were a major part of society. The younger Callista was absolutely amazed, now understanding how the woman had known to contact her, as well as everything about her and her Baltoy, since she was her. Just then, though, Callista feared that her future self was about to go back to her time, since, she had stepped into the time machine, and ran up to ask her a few questions about the ruins, and about everything to do with the time machine and shit, and also to ask if she ended up becoming a famous archaeologist. Although her future self claimed that she couldn't reveal any secrets of the future, but said that if she wished to be a famous archaeologist and make a breaking discovery, then she would need the treasure of this area, which was time. Upon hearing this, Callista questioned her future self on why she even came back in time to talk to her if she couldn't reveal anything from the future, leaving her future self to explain that she came to encourage Callista to never give up on her dream of being an archaeologist and to continue her research and not be afraid of what her parents said. And the future Callista then explains that the entire reason why she had even led Callista to this time machine in the first place was so that she could get a sense of how much she really loved archaeology and discovering shit, so that she could be motivated to not give up. Callista still wanted her future self to teach her some shit about archaeology, so she could kind of cheat the system and become an even better archaeologist right away, but her future self reiterated that she couldn't stay, as messing with the future would messing with the past would ruin the future and shit, and basically she said that if her past self really wanted to get the most out of archaeology, then it would be best for her to experience everything on her own anyways, instead of just cheating by looking to the future. And she also told her past self to not give up, even if it seemed like she was failing on certain discoveries, stating that she had a whole bunch of time to have those failures and recover from them, and that was the important thing. And hearing this, the past Callista promised not to get bent out of shape if she couldn't discover something right away, and agreed that it wouldn't be fair if she learned about her future, or learned any tips from her future self. Otherwise, she figured it would be very disastrous for the future, since she could know how to stop future problems, but that could in turn just cause more problems. Future Callista then said her final words to her past self, which was telling her that you only have one life and one chance to change the future. And Future Callista also says that her past self had already changed the future in a big way thanks to her song about Baltoy, since she never started singing the song as early as her past self now did, thanks to her intervention. Basically, Callista's past self never would have started singing the song as much as she did if it wasn't for future Callista calling her. And now that past Callista could continue singing this song, future Callista requested Callista to always remember the song about the Baltoy civilization, to keep in mind her advice. Basically, she hoped that all the things that she said would be remembered whenever her past self sung the Baltoy song, so that she could always remember to never give up on her archaeologist dreams. Before the future Callista goes back into the time machine to her own time period, she requests to hear her younger self sing the song one more time, and her younger self does, as she then disappears into the time machine, back to her own time. The younger Callista then thanked her older self for what she had said, although she then noticed that her Baltoy had disappeared as well, and she got worried at this as the time machine disappeared, and she feared that her Baltoy was now in the future. But suddenly, Baltoy materialized back on the mural, although it was tired and dizzy as heck, and fell over from this. Callista picks it up and recalls it into its Pokeball so it could get some rest, as she realizes that Baltoy must have went through to the future, but her future self must have pushed it back to the present, knowing that it would be disastrous if it went with her, since she would then have two Baltoys. Callista and Ash then go out of the ruins, and Callista remarks how she was very proud of being able to discover a goddamn time machine, and thanks Ash for all his help, stating she couldn't have done it without him, even though it was her Baltoy that was the main contributor to the whole operation. Regardless of this, Callista asked Ash how she could repay him for his help, but Ash simply said it was nothing, and he didn't need any reward. Callista appreciates Ash's generosity, and promises to never give up on her dream of being an archaeologist, leading Ash to reveal that he was trained by the Holy League and wished to become a Pokemon Master, and promised not to give up on this as well, so long as Callista didn't give up on her dream. And with that, they both wished each other luck with their dreams, as Callista walked off with her Baltoy. Immediately after this, Ash finally heard some familiar voices calling him, and realized that these voices belonged to Max, May, and Brock. As soon as he saw them, he remarked that he almost forgot that he was alone without them this whole time, and he tried to explain to them what happened, but they did not believe it whatsoever. They didn't believe in fucking time travel. So, when May, Max, and Brock asked Ash where he really had been, not believing what he said, Ash simply just said he was glad to see them, since he'd been looking for them. Although Ash then tries to reconvince his friends of the time travel thing, stating that after he had witnessed time travel, he had come to the conclusion that it would be best not to hurry so quickly to Fortree City for the next gym, even though he was very excited to go get his next gym badge. Everyone was surprised to hear Ash's change in attitude, as he was always willing to run extremely fast to get to the next gym, but he claimed that he had now come to the conclusion that if they just went to the gym without being in such a rush, it would make it easier, since for one, they could enjoy the scenery more and have a better time, and also they wouldn't have to worry about tripping and shit like that. And proceeded to go on and on about how, from his time travel experience, he had learned how important patience and time were. Everyone just stared at Ash oddly, wondering what the fuck was up with him, as this was very unusual for him, but eventually they just shrugged this off, and May simply commented that it was good Ash had changed from his usual running off self and was going to be more calm now, since she still got tired from chasing after Ash all the time. So, with that, Ash and the gang continued their journey to Fortree City at a slower pace than usual, but as you may expect, it was going to take a long time for Ash to actually be able to not run as fast as he could to a gym, as he commented that he truly did understand that time was a precious gift, but he then came to the conclusion now, because he got bored from just walking, that time was so important that he shouldn't waste it, so this actually made him want to run to the gym as fast as possible, and suggested that they all get a move on to not waste any time. May was surprised at this, asking Ash why he was suddenly having a change of heart yet again, with Ash simply stating that he now understood how important time really was. May tried to convince Ash to at least stop for lunch first, since they hadn't even had lunch and it was already dinner time, but Ash declined, now ready to go to his gym battle as fast as possible. So basically, he was like, look, we only live once, so I want to make the most use of my time as possible. Although he was still willing to appreciate the smaller details along the way more.